I'll call to order the July 10th, 2017 regular business meeting of City Council. Mr. Hamp, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir, I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll remind everybody in attendance, if you wish to speak during public comment or public hearings, or sign-up sheets in the back. Correct, Ms. Bortle?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. First item of business is consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Short, Vice Mayor Short. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries 4-0. Item 3 is matters from city council members. Does anybody have anything they wish to say tonight?
I would just like to say that last meeting we had our city consultants here talking about the possible roundabout at Rosser and 13th. And I asked a question about where we could go to see something similar. And the answer was Lynchburg. They had done something pretty similar. Well, it just so happened that I was in Crozet a couple days later, and there's roundabouts there at Old Trail. And I sat and watched those, how they operated. And I was pretty impressed. And I think if that's the route we go, people will probably be more impressed than not.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody else?
Just extravaganza was awesome. I think staff should be commended. Had a great turnout and just a job well done. And this week starts the Groovin' on the Greenway, which is another great Parks and Rec thing. If folks haven't heard about that, where there will be music and I think food truck. And I think that starts on this Thursday. With the new location down here right at the newly completed Main Street Bridge. So would certainly encourage folks to attend that.
We had family in from Ohio and Tennessee and other parts of the states, and they went over to the extravaganza, and they were very much impressed with a town of our size with their fireworks display. So I thought it was fantastic, and everybody did an excellent job over in the park itself. So they did do exceptionally well. Item 4 is public hearing on community development needs for the CDBG eligibility grants. Mr.
Excuse me. Yes. Proceed. Proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is our public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Funds for the next fiscal year. Just to recap really quickly, the CDBG program is a federal program through the Housing and Urban Development Department. It provides annual grants on a formula basis to cities that have a certain demographic characteristics. The goal being to develop viable communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment and expanding opportunities, especially for low and moderate income persons. There's a couple different options. Historically, we've done some big CDBG block grants where you do a kind of a large proposal, but we've now fallen into being an entitlement community, which means that we're entitled to funds every year and we don't have to make application. The national objectives are benefiting low and moderate income persons, aiding in the prevention and elimination of slums and blight, and meeting needs that have a particular urgency in a locality. In maroon here are the areas of our city that qualify under the HUD's guidelines as low to moderate income areas where we can use the CDBG funds. And they can be used for a whole variety of things, including acquisition of real property. You can use it to buy derelict homes, relocation and demolition. You can use it for rehabilitation of residential and non-residential structures, construction of various facilities that will benefit the neighborhood, public services within limits, and activities that relate to energy conservation and renewable resources. And then also provision of assistance to profit-motivated businesses that will carry out economic development or job creation opportunities. You cannot use CDBG funds for operations and maintenance, projects located in or primarily benefiting higher income areas, any buildings for government use, purchase of equipment, new housing construction, basically most kind of day-to-day city operations. The Waynesboro has a consolidated housing plan that we look to as for kind of the basis of what we would pick CDBG items based off of. It has 3 tenets. The first is to provide decent housing by preserving the affordable housing stock, increasing the availability of affordable housing, reducing discriminatory barriers, increasing the supply of supportive housing for those with special needs, and transitioning homeless families into housing. The second goal is providing essentially a suitable living environment by making neighborhoods safe and lively and integrating areas of different economic strata throughout the city. And the third goal is expanding economic opportunities by providing more jobs that pay self-sufficient wages, homeownership opportunities, and development activities that empower low to moderate income persons. So this year, our total fiscal year 18 grant is $185,000 from HUD. Obviously, that's not, in the grand scheme of most development and locality projects, that's not a lot of money. So, we're not talking about huge projects here. We're talking about a few small items. We have the Waynesboro Redevelopment and Housing Authority administer it for us. We don't have the staff capacity to administer it ourselves. A maximum of 20% of the block grant can go towards administrative and personnel costs. And that's fairly high. And most localities spend quite a bit of that 20% on their administrative costs because kind of when you deal with anything federal, and this is actually all 3 levels of government, so the feds administer it through the states, you just have a raft of regulations and they audit constantly, and so it is a heavy lift for administration. Not the most efficient program ever. Of non-administrative expenditures, a max of 30% can go towards downtown projects. We have a slums and blight designated area downtown, which has allowed us to use a lot of CDBG funds for things like the streetscape, facade improvements, stuff like that. But at least 70% has to go to benefiting those neighborhoods that we have designated as LMI. Examples of past projects we've done with CDBG money include the Arch Avenue sidewalks, facade grants, rehab programs for homeowners that are unable to keep up their properties. If we have a property maintenance inspector go out and consistently cite a problem property and then determine through that process that the homeowner, it has to be a homeowner, is probably elderly or is just incapable of keeping up their property, then we'll use some CDBG funds to help them get their house up to a passable level. Certain things like certain kinds of infrastructure projects are permissible. We did some water system upgrades in the Port Republic neighborhood, and so we were able to use CDBG money for that as well. HUD requires that you have a citizen participation plan that gives citizens access to local meetings, information, and records, and has public hearings at all stages of the community development program, and provides citizens with timely written answers to written complaints and grievances. And so we've worked in the past to try to host public meetings around the city that give people an opportunity to speak to what the CDBG money should go towards. Again, it's not a huge pot of money, and it usually just goes towards a couple projects. We don't normally have a ton of feedback. But we would like to have this public hearing to welcome any citizen input on things that people would like to see this money go towards, what kinds of projects in these neighborhoods they think would be most valuable. So with that, I'll open it up, and you all can hold the public hearing whenever you'd like, and also give staff any input on where you would like to see this money be allocated in the next fiscal year.
Thank you. I'll hereby open the public hearing.
So, Mr. Mayor, we have one individual signed up to speak, Mr. Bob Browning. And while Mr. Browning approaches the podium, I'll ask, our sign-up sheet went missing, so if an interested citizen mistakenly took our public hearing sign-up sheet, if you could bring it to the clerk, we'd appreciate it. There'll be no reprimand. All is forgiven. We just want to make sure we hear from everybody that wanted to speak.
Mr. Browning, if you'll give us your name and address, please. And if you'll watch the timer over here, please. Green, you can talk. Yellow, start to wind it up. And when it turns red, please finish.
Sure. My name is Bob Browning. I reside at 421 Chickapin Drive. I'm a native of Waynesboro and currently retired. I was going to ask, the rules for this public hearing are the same as basically as a public comment?
Yes, I think the time is...
Correct, 4 minutes.
4 minutes, yes, sir.
Okay, and I don't know if it's appropriate, but I wouldn't expect any input or conversation from y'all, even though I highly applaud it if you did. Okay, according to what I've learned about the community development block grant, which I just picked up right now, thanks, is it prizes the use of citizens' input for local developmental block grant needs. I think today's forum, public hearing, is the correct forum for my request for a block grant project. We are lucky that a Valley District Wooden Bat Baseball Club is located here in Waynesboro. It brings in approximately 25 college baseball players from colleges and universities across the country. They play approximately 22 games at K. Collins Field and approximately 23 games in Valley locations from Covington to Winchester. Players from Waynesboro and visiting teams have friends and relatives come to Waynesboro to see them play. These friends and family are classified as tourists. The whole world will call them tourists. Waynesboro provides these tourists with restroom facilities at the K. Collins Field, which are portalets. The local facilities at K. Collins Field have been out of order. The portalets have been there for 2 years. This situation should be intolerable to a comprehensive Waynesboro tourist program. Tourists coming to Waynesboro should be treated as if they're potential tourists and come back to Waynesboro. Work to get them to come back to Waynesboro. Waynesboro should not be branded as an outhouse community using portalets. And for those focused people going to K. Collins Field, that's what they've been seeing for the last 2 years. Even though outside of the portalets, the Waynesboro Generals are running one great organization as far as a baseball team for the people of Waynesboro to come and see. Again, from listening to the planning director's brief presentation, this project can fit into a grant, but immediately some of the I'll call the classifications for my project against that grant, it's kind of a reach. It's not exactly there, but it's a reach. And I sure would like your consideration in taking this project as part of a community development block grant project. Thanks for your time and consideration, and I'll be glad to work as a volunteer for any task that you may need.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else, Mr. Hamp?
No, sir.
No one else has signed up to speak, so I'll hereby close the public hearing. No action is required on City Council tonight on this issue. Item 5 is to conduct a public hearing to receive comment on a request by Scott and Dana Mayers to rezone a property at 1169 Sherwood Avenue from multifamily residential district to general residential district, Waynesboro, Virginia, city tax map number 16-1-45D. Mr. Hamp.
Mayor Allen and members of council, the first action on this item tonight is for the city council to formally receive the Planning Commission's report and recommendation. The Planning Commission heard and considered this request at its regular meeting on June 20th and voted 5-0 to recommend approval in accordance with the application and staff report dated June 20th, 2017.
Is there a motion to accept the report and recommendations of Planning Commission?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Short. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Is there any discussion? All in favor of receiving the report and communications of the Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries 4-0. Mr. Jude, do you have something to add to this?
Sure, I'll just quickly explain it. It's a fairly straightforward rezoning. There was very little discussion at the Planning Commission about it. It's for 1169 Sherwood Avenue, commonly known, I believe, as the Dr. Quinn's house, formerly. It's a property that consists of 3 parcels, 2 of which are zoned RG5 and 1 of which is zoned RMF. RMF is residential multifamily. That's our highest intensity residential zone. Mr. and Mrs. Mayers have purchased the property, and the bank informed them that they would not be able to refinance it because it's on 2 different zoning districts, and they don't look favorably on that. They like to have everything clearly be in the same property. There's no intent to develop the property. This is not a rezoning with a development proposal attached to it. They would just like to rezone the RMF parcel to RG5 so that it matches the other 2 parcels and qualifies for refinancing. There's no, as I said, there's no proposed development. It'll remain part of their yard. This is a downzoning because they're going from a more intense zone, which allows multifamily structures, to a less intense zone, which only allows, a variety of less intense residential uses. There's no real impact on the neighbors that we have to consider. Ideally, you would be having less of an impact on the properties around you. This will slightly reduce their tax assessment as well, since they'll have a lower theoretical highest and best use for their property. Staff believes that because of the topography, which includes some steep slopes along both Sherwood Avenue and Hopeman Parkway, that would make it difficult to access this parcel on its own if they did want to develop it separately from the house. And because of the shared ownership, we believe it belongs more logically with the mayor's property, and we support the rezoning. So the recommendation is staff recommends approval with no conditions. And just a quick map up here. Here's the subject property up in the top right. As you can see, there's a lot of other RMF properties along Hopeman. This doesn't reduce our capacity at all. In order for this property to develop, again, you can't really access from Hopeman, which is limited access, and you can't really access from Sherwood right here because of the steep slope. So it would have to, if it were to be developed as an apartment complex, it would have to have access through this parcel to the left. But if you go out there and look around, it really just makes more sense as part of their yard. So because of that, we recommend approval with no conditions, and the Planning Commission also recommends approval with no conditions on a 5-0 vote. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Jude? Thank you. I'll hereby open the public hearing.
Mayor Allen, no one has signed up to speak. It's our practice, however, to acknowledge the applicant if the mayors are present. It's not necessary for you to speak, but we would at least like to acknowledge your attendance. So I don't see them here.
So I'll hereby close the public hearing. Is there a motion to introduce the ordinance rezoning 1169 Sherwood Avenue from residential multifamily to general residential?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. All ordinances introduced this evening will be considered at the July 24th regular meeting of City Council. Item 6 is to recognize employees from the Emergency Operations Center, the Fire Department, Police Department, and the Library for exceptional performances and services to the community. Mr. Ham.
So Mayor Allen and members of council, I thought it was important to take an opportunity to draw more conspicuous attention to recent exceptional work performed and service delivered by the municipal staff. And we'll start with 2 employees in the Emergency Communications Center. Ms. Danielle S. McCormick. On May 25th in 2017, the EOC received a 911 call for a 6-year-old child who was choking on a piece of candy and was unable to breathe or cough. EMS was immediately dispatched by other staff, and telecommunicator McCormick, using emergency medical dispatch, or EMD, pre-arrival instructions, talked the child's mother through instructions on how to clear the obstructed airway. After several attempts, the obstruction was cleared and the child could be heard in the background. This was accomplished prior to the arrival of EMS. Telecommunicator McCormick's actions and the use of EMD instructions resulted in a life saved. So this evening we'd like to recognize Ms. McCormick's service in that regard. Earlier this year in January, the EOC again received a call for a woman in active labor. EMS was immediately dispatched by other staff, and telecommunicator Crystal Harris Also using EMD pre-arrival instructions, talk the father through the delivery of the child, the care of the child after the birth, and the care for the mother prior to the arrival of EMS. The high moment in the call was the moment you could hear the child crying in the background. Telecommunicator Harris's actions and the use of EMD instructions resulted in the safe delivery of the child. So this evening we recognize Ms. Harris for that service performed. And just to note that emergency medical dispatch is a national standard for emergency communication centers. It focuses on the screening of 911 medical calls to ensure the proper level of response, the proper mode, emergent or non-emergent of response, and the use of life-saving pre-arrival instructions. The protocols and training established follow the NHTSA standard and are medically approved. Emergency medical dispatchers, often referred to as the first responder, save lives every day across our country. These behind-the-scenes heroes are the voice of calm in crisis, who, as a part of the larger public safety system, contribute to the safety of all our citizens. The City of Waynesboro has been utilizing emergency medical dispatch since its opening in 1990 and is an accredited emergency medical dispatch public safety answering point by the Virginia Department of Health's Office of EMS. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Gary Kreiser, and I think he wanted to recognize the two employees personally, briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Hamp, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Danielle and Crystal, if you come up. The work that these folks do behind the scenes is not often seen and often not recognized, and we want to take this opportunity to acknowledge their exceptional performance and the difference that they make every day in the lives of our citizens. So, Danielle, and you already got your stork pen, so Crystal, thank y'all very much.
Second recognition tonight attends to the fire and police departments. In May of this year, the Waynesboro Fire Department's B shift responded to a structure fire on Hopeman Parkway. At the scene, Waynesboro police officers and the B shift encountered heavy smoke and dangerous conditions produced by the involved structure. Police officers Evan Bourne and Zach Carr arrived first on the scene and attempted to rouse the occupants and effect rescue, but were prevented from doing so by the severe conditions. B-shift personnel arrived and fulfilled responsibilities suppressing the fire and facilitating the rescue of an 18-month-old child and 2 adult occupants. I'd like to, at this time, recognize the members of the B-shift in no particular order. Michael Boyle, Josh Gerals, Chase Killingsworth, Bradley Markin, Roy Robinson, Hunter Rousey, Robert Thomas, Robert Van Buren, Tyler Varney, and John Wood. If you gentlemen would stand and be recognized. As Mr. Kreiser noted, especially teamwork accomplishes a lot in our organization, but is especially important to our public safety system. And the men and women who serve in that system, in my view, are sometimes reluctant to receive and enjoy individualized recognition and prefer more to spread the recognition for the work that they accomplish among their departmental coworkers and even among their colleagues in other public safety departments. But it's a tribute to our system and the leaders that we have in that system for that spirit and also for the cooperative and team nature that they pursue on a daily basis. And we thank those men and women for that. Finally, this evening, I'd like to recognize the Waynesboro Public Library. Earlier this year, the Virginia Public Library Directors Association presented the Waynesboro Public Library an award for Outstanding Cooperative Program. The library's mini golf event held at the library last November was recognized for its substantial cooperative effort involving corporate and small business donors and volunteers. The mini golf event was aimed at elevating public awareness of the library, its collection and programs, and reinforce the benefit and enjoyment of the library and the staff services provided to the community. The project involved the construction of an elaborate mini golf course throughout the stacks. Ms. Marta Grove provided primary inspiration and leadership on the project, and I'd like to recognize Marta and Library Director Zaire Mahmoud this evening. If you two would stand and be recognized. Thank you.
Well, all I can say is back in the 70s when I first got on the police force, I was assigned to the office division, and that was before we had emergency medical center. And we answered all the hot calls down in the police department. And I can remember how excited I got on a few of my first calls that I received. And today, the people that work the EOC, the training that they have to go through, and the job that they do, it's an absolute pleasure to sit here tonight and to look at so many of our different departments and to see the outstanding job that our employees do. I know we're going to get complaints about everything that you can imagine, but for the overall majority of times, this has made our council people and our city administration's job so much easier because of the dedicated and educated and the people that we have working for us. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart to everybody out here that's a city employee, there's no words I can say for the job that y'all do for our community and for our city. So thank you 100%. Anybody else like to say anything?
I'd like to echo that and say you guys and gals are really the heroes of our city, and we are proud to have you represent us, and thank you for your service. And I want to say for Danielle, this is nice to see a continuation from you and your family, who's been involved for a lot of years with the fire department and first aid and all kinds of associations, a lot of hours. So thank all of you. Thank you.
Just echo that. Thank you so much for your service and dedication to your work and the obvious joy and compassion that you have for the citizens of Waynesboro. It's profound. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I would echo what everyone else has said. And from my perspective, I think we are blessed in Waynesboro to have the kind of dedicated employees we have. Oftentimes, their rewards are not financial, but have to be found in other ways. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your time and service, and look forward to future of the city.
Just keep up the great work. Thank you. Item 7 is to consider adopting a resolution affirming the acquisition of Lumos Networks Corporation by EQT and does not require the transfer of the cable franchise dated October the 12th, 2016 and issued to Lumos Media, Inc. to EQT, a private firm. Mr. Hamp.
Yes, sir. Mayor Allen, members of council, in October of 2016, the City Council granted and actually extended a cable franchise with Lumos Media, Inc., under which Lumos provides video services to customers in the city. In February of this year, Lumos Networks Corporation, the indirect parent company of Lumos Media, announced that it had agreed to be acquired by EQT, a private equity firm headquartered in Sweden. The acquisition will be effected through merger. EQT has formed a corporation, MTN Infrastructure Bidco, Inc., which will merge with and into Lumos Networks Corporation. Lumos Networks Corporation will be the surviving corporation and will be owned by a holding company for EQT private equity funds. Lumos officials advise that the transaction will be transparent to Lumos Media customers who will continue to be served under Lumos's existing authorizations as well as existing contracts and tariffs. While the franchise agreement provides that, quote, no transfer of this franchise shall occur without the prior written consent of the franchising authority, the City Council, which shall not be withheld unreasonably, delayed, or conditioned, end quote. The franchise agreement also contains language that exempts from transfer corporate changes resulting from the merger of the parent company of the franchisee, excuse me. The city attorney has reviewed the matter and advises that a prudent and appropriate course of action is to have city council affirmatively confirm by resolution that the acquisition of Lumos Networks Corp. By EQT does not require the transfer of the franchise from Lumos Media, Inc. to EQT, according to the agreement's transfer provisions. We are providing this resolution in support and cooperation with Lumos to assist them through the acquisition and merger process. Mary McDermott, who is counsel for Lumos, is present this evening should there be any questions. And the City Council has presented a resolution that accomplishes that affirmative confirmation recommended by our City Attorney, Mr. Patrick. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Any questions? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 8A is to consider reappointing 2 individuals to the Economic Development Authority, each for a 4-year term ending August the 31st, 2021. Mr. Hamp.
Mr. Perry Fridley and Mr. Tom Ryder presently serve on the EDA, filling terms that expire in August of this year. Both Mr. Fridley and Mr. Ryder are eligible for reappointment and have expressed a willingness to serve an additional term.
Is there a motion to reappoint Mr. Fridley and Mr. Ryder?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you. Item 8B is to consider appointing a candidate to the Planning Commission for an unexpired term ending August the 31st, 2017, and for a 4-year term expiring August the 31st, 2021. Mr. Hamp.
Due to a resignation, there's a vacancy on the Planning Commission. Mr. Andrew Kelly has on several occasions previously expressed interest in serving on the Planning Commission, and his candidacy has been vetted among a number of other interested individuals, and Mr. Kelly's candidacy is presented for your consideration this evening. I'll note filling an unexpired term that concludes August 31 of this year, and then simultaneously council is reappointing for a 4-year term expiring August 31 of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Hamp. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Kelly for that time limit?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any other discussion?
I would just add that how impressed and appreciative I think all of council are of the number of applicants that we received for the position. It is exciting to see an increase in civic engagement and a desire to serve the community, and so I just wanted to personally express my appreciation for everybody that applied, and please continue to do so. Our community is better served when people show up. So I just want to say that.
Thank you, because there has been times we have not had people step up, so
Right.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 9A is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating $14,949 from the Courthouse Maintenance Reserve and $14,949 from the Governmental Facilities Reserve to the General Fund for expenses related to the repair of the boilers at the Gorsuch Building. Mr. Hamp.
Mayor Allen, members of council, in February, both boilers that supply heat to the Gorsuch Building failed, making it impossible to deliver heat to that facility. The boiler components, replacement components were required, and repairs were undertaken at that time at an expense of nearly $30,000. There was some thought that the facility maintenance portion of the budget could accommodate that, but it proves that there is not sufficient funds as we concluded the fiscal year to cover that expense. The ordinance presented for your consideration takes half of the expense for that repair from the Courthouse Maintenance Fund and half from the government facilities reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Is there any questions? Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Item 9B is to consider introducing an ordinance appropriating $944,208 from the sewer fund retained earnings to the sewer fund's capital projects fund for completion of inflow and infiltration projects, S-10 for basic city area, and Pine Avenue sewer line rehabilitation. Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the staff thought it prudent that as we make this request, we give you some brief background and an update on the city's I&I program. I&I basically refers to inflow and infiltration of rain and groundwater into the city's sanitary sewer system. And this occurs because of the deterioration of sewer lines. And bearing in mind that there's a significant portion of the city sewer system that consists of clay pipes that were installed in the earliest part of the 20th century, as well as ductile iron pipes, and neither material is as durable, certainly, as the type of pipes that are installed today. And so what you'll find is that some of the pipes end up completely collapsing and have holes. Couplings are not as secure as pipes that are installed today, or that tree roots grow into the system. And what you're looking at here are actually photographs from the city sewer system that show both of those conditions. And this is a problem because this water in the system exceeds the capacity of the pipes to transfer sewage to the sewage treatment plant, and can result in overflows at low-lying manholes and pump stations, or in the past, bypasses altogether at the sewage treatment plant where the sewage was discharged to the South River directly. This resulted in notices of violation from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. Also, that even as, today as we deal with I&I, you find that there's a considerable expense in simply treating rainwater. In other words, in particularly rainy months, we'll find that about half of the flow at the wastewater treatment plant consists of rainwater. And so there's an added cost in both electricity and chemicals and treating that sewage. And in a month alone, you can look at upwards of $175,000, $180,000 of increased cost during a wet weather month. Dating back to the late 1980s and then the early 1990s, the city began to receive a number of notices of violation under state code related to the water quality regulations of the Commonwealth. And so we entered into a consent order, which is essentially an agreement between the State Water Control Board and a locality or an offending entity as to actions that will be undertaken to correct an existing and ongoing environmental problem. So the earliest consent orders date back to the 1990s, and in that sort of first round of consent orders, which typically last about 5 years at a time, there was a focus on the repair and replacement of sewage pipes. And a lot of the work in those days was done on the basis of familiarity either with areas, low-lying areas where sewage would discharge from manholes during high rain events, or the knowledge that the crews at the time had of the sewage system and their experience in repairing lines in the older parts of the city. The 1999 consent order then was initiated and began to focus on different areas of inflow that could be readily identified and eliminated. And so there was a program in the city of basically doing a house-to-house, business-to-business survey and identifying properties where there was a private drain, roof drains, or sump pumps that were connected to their sewer system. And the city essentially paid to get those either roof drains, gutters, or sump pumps out of the sanitary sewer system. By 2004, we had started again to identify rehabilitation projects that were generally mainline replacement and pump station upgrades. And then in 2009, a study was done that identified 19 different I&I projects, mostly either replacing or rehabilitating through lining existing trunk lines. And we negotiated with DEQ to settle upon 9 projects that would be done in the past consent order. The project work for that 2010 consent order was completed in 2016, and one final requirement of the consent order was that we were to evaluate the effectiveness of those completed projects and determine whether we would continue with the slate of projects that had been identified, the remaining projects identified in 2009, either under a consent order or by a maintenance program of the city. The study concluded that the projects had been effective, but that the I&I is still an existing, ongoing, significant problem for the system, and that the state of identified projects still made sense. This is a map that really gives you some sense of the sewer lines that have been replaced, rehabilitated, rerouted through the city, through the various consent orders. And as you can see, significant areas in the northern part of the city, a lot of this were actually new lines to reroute sewage from older existing lines. And then as areas had been identified through various studies that were determined to hopefully be projects that were most effective for their dollar value. And so, you know, in the from the early 2000s through 2008 or so, the city replaced about 11 miles of line. And then subsequently in the period since the 2010 consent order, we've replaced about 1 mile to 2 miles of line every year. And we have more than 150 miles of line in the city, though. Now, admittedly, some of that line is more modern and stable than others. I would also add that during that period in 2010, we brought a new sewage treatment plant online, or rehabilitated parts of the old sewage treatment plant, brought a new plant online. But that was not done as a matter of the I&I consent order. Really, we were responding to regulations of the state related to Chesapeake Bay Act to reduce nutrient loading to the South River and ultimately to the Chesapeake Bay. And the old plant simply didn't have adequate technology to meet the nutrient reduction demands of the Commonwealth. It has had an impact on the I&I problem in that the new plant is built at such a greater capacity. We can receive and deal with as many as 18 million gallons a day at the sewage treatment plant. On an average day, we receive about 4 million gallons of sewage. And so the result is, during a heavy rain event, we are able to take all of the sewage water that arrives at the plant, rather than having to bypass and discharge any of that to the South River. As well, we meet all of the other regulatory requirements through the operation of the plant. So since 2000, the city spent about $15 million in replacement of lines, and the cost of the sewage treatment plant upgrade was about $54 million. Looking forward, the projects that had been identified in the 2009 study that resulted in the negotiated 2010 consent order are shown here. They have a total dollar value of more than $7 million. Our proposal to DEQ is to take a more measured pace in the completion of these projects. And so, you know, our hope being that we as a city will take on a certain level of line replacement. Our crews are able to replace lines, and we work best in neighborhoods and areas where the lines are not overly deep, that we would also, as part of our maintenance program, then contract out lining, that there's a method by which a polymer is blown into lines or lines existing manholes and basically fills any voids, cracks that may exist at junctions or in the line generally, and that we still then would take on a certain number of capital projects. And the conversations that we had with the DEQ related to, our future, one of the things that we proposed was that we really wanted to marry our program of sewer line rehabilitation with rates. And I think that was something that, we've experienced in the past, where we take on consent orders and our rates go up dramatically. And so the program that you see proposed here has been is funded through the rate study, the 5-year rate plan that the council reviewed during the budget sessions. And so now part of that depends on our ability to use unspent bond proceeds. That we do have proceeds from a 2008 sewer revenue bond that had, some of which the proceeds had been intended for a pump station that was ultimately never built. And so I think our hope was to come before council tonight and have you repurpose those funds. And so the projects that we would undertake, we refer to one as S10, and it actually has a couple of related projects in the basic city area. Actually, sewer crews are already working in this area on Faber and Harmon Avenue, but we would have contract services take on this area along A Street, 2nd Street, and then to Malcolm. And then the other project, again, will be a part of a larger project that is in the Tree Street area, most immediately a sewer line that's in the vicinity of Pine, but ultimately would also rehabilitate or replace lines along 11th Street and South Wayne Avenue. I'd be glad to answer any questions that the council might have.
Anyone have any questions?
There's a question about the Malcolm and Kirby routes. Is that there, one time, I can't remember exactly, that we had talked about examining the potential about abandoning one of those roads possibly.
Right.
And I'm so kind of curious if you could refresh my memory as to.
Yeah, I think what we had looked at really when we were talking, we were discussing the culvert that's here on A Street.
Okay.
And whether completing a culvert here on Malcolm and then tying into Shenandoah Avenue made more sense. And I think ultimately our engineers felt like because Malcolm in that section is not fully built out to city street standard, and one section doesn't exist, and that the grade is such that there would be so much road work that would go into that in addition to the culvert itself, that it was 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and so we didn't pursue that project. But I don't think that it would have an effect on the replacement of that stretch of sewer line in any case.
Okay, that's kind of where it was.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You say on average we put about 4 million gallons a day through our sewer treatment plant?
Right.
That's a lot of sewer.
That's a lot of sewage.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, if no other questions, is there a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Number 10, communications and correspondence.
I have one item this evening, Mr. Mayor. The council is aware, and Mr. Short has alluded to citizen service on various boards and commissions, I'd like to draw the community's attention and the council's attention to several opportunities in particular related to service on the board of directors for the Valley Community Services Board. Valley is a healthcare provider organization that delivers services in the areas of mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities, and also emergency services, and serves residents of Waynesboro, Stanton, and Augusta County and Highland County. It's governed by a citizen board of directors, and presently there are several vacancies for Waynesboro representatives to serve the community and the region at large in that capacity. And so I would encourage anyone who might be interested in that opportunity to go to the Valley Community Services Board website or contact Valley at 943-5515, or Ms. Bortle, the clerk of the council, at 942-6669. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Citizens' comment period.
And no one has signed up to speak this evening, sir.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes, we are adjourned then.